Welcome back, horror fans. Well, it's now time to talk about one of the most interesting installments of the Halloween franchise. I'm of course talking about Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. And yes, I will also be talking about the infamous producer's cut. So, sorry, I had some stuff stuck in my teeth. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get started. And this review is going to be a bit of a long one because I have a lot to talk about. So, actually, I should say there's a lot to talk about. So, anyway, without further ado, here we go. On October 31st, 1989, Michael Myers and his niece Jamie Lloyd are abducted from the Haddonfield police station. 6 years later, on October 30th, 1995, Jamie has been impregnated and her baby is born, being taken away by the Man in Black, the leader of a Druid-like cult. Later, a midwife helps Jamie escape with her baby and is soon killed by Michael by impaling the back of her skull into a protruding sharp metal spike high in the wall. Yeesh. Jamie and her baby flee in the stolen pickup truck, with Michael in pursuit. Stopping briefly at a deserted bus station, Jamie makes a call to a Haddonfield radio station to warn them that Michael is about to return home, only to be ignored by the radio DJ Barry Sims. Meanwhile, the retired Dr. Sam Loomis is visited by his friend Dr. Terrence Wynn, the chief administrator of Smith's Grove Sanitarium, where Michael had been incarcerated as a boy. Wynn asks Loomis to return to Smith's Grove. They overhear Jamie's plea for help on a local radio station. Michael finds Jamie, and she crashes the truck into an old barn. He kills Jamie by impaling her on a corn thresher and turning it on, disemboweling her, but finds that her baby is not in the truck. Ugh, nasty. Back in Haddonfield, Tommy Doyle, who Laurie Strode babysat in 1978, now lives in a boarding house run by Mrs. Blankenship. The family living in the Myers house across the street are relatives of the dysfunctional Strode family. Kara Strode, her 6-year-old son Danny, her teenage brother Tim, caring mother Deborah, and abusive father John. Ever since seeing Michael as a child, Tommy has been obsessed with finding the truth behind his motives. He finds Jamie's baby at the bus station, takes him into his care, and names him Stephen. Tommy runs into Loomis and tells him about the Strode family living in the Myers house. The two believe Michael has returned to Haddonfield. Gee, you think? Michael enters his home and kills Deborah. Later, Tommy, Kara, and Danny go to the boarding house, where Tommy reveals that Michael has been afflicted with Thorn, an ancient druid curse. Long ago, one child from each tribe, chosen to bear the curse of Thorn, must sacrifice his next of kin on the night of Samhain, or Halloween. Tommy believes that Stephen will be Michael's final sacrifice. While Tommy goes out to look for Loomis, Mrs. Blankenship reveals to Kara that she was babysitting Michael the night he killed his sister, and that Danny is hearing a voice telling him to kill just like Michael did, indicating that Danny also possesses the power of Thorn. Okay. So yeah, basically, in other words, Michael's just a pawn for an ancient cult. Oh jeez. Meanwhile, Michael kills John, Tim's girlfriend Beth, and Barry Sims. After Tommy returns home with Loomis, the Man in Black reveals himself to be Wynn. The cult take Kara, Danny, Stephen, and Michael to Smith's Grove. There, Loomis confronts Wynn, who reveals he wants to control and study the power of Thorn. Wynn wants Loomis to join in on his conspiracy, and reveals that Jamie's baby represents a new cycle of Michael's evil that he kept secret from most of the cult, who were focused on inflicting the curse onto a new child, also aka Danny, to carry a new trend of family sacrifices. Loomis calls Wynn out on his scheme and is knocked unconscious. Later, Michael butchers Wynn's team of staff surgeons and Wynn himself during a medical procedure with Danny and Stephen sitting in a room next door. Tommy finds and frees Kara, Danny, and Stephen. They flee from Michael and hide in a laboratory. Regaining consciousness, Loomis helps Kara and the children escape the hospital. When Michael breaks into the room, Tommy injects him with large quantities of tranquilizers containing a corrosive liquid and beats him unconscious with a lead pipe. As Tommy, Kara, Danny, and Stephen leave, Loomis refuses to come with them as he has a little business to attend to. Back inside the building, Michael's mask is seen lying on the floor of the lab room, and Loomis is heard screaming in the background. leaving the fate of both men unknown. And yeah, that was kind of interesting, I guess. So anyway, let's look at the production of this movie, starting off with concept and writing. After less than enthusiastic response to Halloween 5, which came out only a year after Halloween 4, producer Mustafa Akkad I'm sorry, must have missed something. Held out on. Sorry. Producer Mustafa Akkad put the series on hold to reevaluate its potential. Akkad felt Halloween 5 had strayed too far from Halloween 4, and the box office response was much lower than expected. In 1990, screenwriter and longtime Halloween fan Daniel Franz set out to write the sixth entry of the Halloween series. Franz gave his horror movie scripts to the producer of Halloween 5, Ramsey Thomas. Impressed by his writing, Thomas set a meeting for Franz with executive producer Mustafa Akkad. Franz described the meeting, quote, "I spent weeks preparing for the meeting and came in with a huge notebook full of research. I had the entire series laid out in a timeline, a bio of every character, a family tree of the Myers and Strode clans, as well as all of the research I had compiled about the runic symbol that was briefly shown in Halloween 5. I then laid out how I thought all of this might be explored in Halloween 6. Although the producers at the time had already sought to make a sixth Halloween film, a series of complicated legal battles ensued which delayed plans for a sequel. Eventually, Miramax Films, via its Dimension Films division, bought the rights to the Halloween series. In June 1994, after several screenplays from different writers had been deemed insufficient by Akkad, including one by Scott Spiegel, Franz was hired to write a new screenplay, as the film had impending shooting dates scheduled for October in Salt Lake City, Utah. Gee, they filmed in Salt Lake City again? Why am I not surprised? Franz has said in his initial intent for the film was to, quote, bridge the later films in the series to the earlier films, while at the same time taking the story into new territory so that the series could expand for future installments. This part meant expanding on the presence of the Man in Black, as well as the appearance of the Thorn symbol, both of which appear without explanation at the end of Halloween 5. In the beginning of the script, Franz contacted the writers of Halloween 4 and 5 for additional information, but they were unable to provide clear answers, leaving him to, quote, pick up the pieces. Franz expanded the Curse of Thorn plotline, in which Jamie Lloyd is kidnapped by a covert cult who has cursed Michael Myers via the runic symbol of Thorn, which compels him to kill and also affords him immortality. So gee, that's why he keeps on coming back in all the movies. Well, except for Halloween 3, where he was in, which he didn't show up at all. Franz had in part based the idea on dialogue present in Halloween 2 about that of Sam Hain, during which the, quote, veil between the living and dead is the thinnest, the one time of year during which Myers became, quote, active and seeks out his bloodline. References to Druidism, as well as Myers' grandfather hearing voices, had also appeared in the 1978 novelization by Curtis Richards. Although the character of Jamie Lloyd dies early in the film, the initial version of Franz's script had her character surviving until the final act, at which point she was ultimately killed by Michael. Other elements of Franz's working script that ultimately had to be trimmed down included an extension of the Curse of Thorn subplot, which had the entire town of Haddonfield in collusion with the cult, an idea Akkad wanted to use for the series' 7th installment. However, this idea was scrapped in favor of the Halloween H2O script in 1997. According to Franz, there were around 10 different drafts of a script between June 1994 and the October 1994 film shoot, and much of the finale that appears in the theatrical version, including the events of the hospital, as well as the references to the cult using Myers' power as a means of scientific investigation, were not written by him, and have been written and shot in post-production under the supervision of Dimension Films. Let's take a look at the allusions and references. Franz, a longtime fan of the series, sought to incorporate various references and allusions to the previous Halloween films, particularly the original, to play within the Halloween mythology. These range from situational allusions, such as Tommy Doyle living across the street from the Strode house, a play on the events in the original Halloween, which take place between the Wallace and Doyle residences, which are across the street from one another, to minor references, such as the naming of an address from Halloween 2, and the character of Mrs. Blankenship, a name referred to in passing in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Other references outside the narrative digests of the series include the names of characters, such as John and Deborah Strode, referencing John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, as well as the naming of Danny Strode, a character Franz has said was modeled after Danny Torrance in The Shining. Okay then. Franz also referenced Carpenter's The Fog, with the line referring to a stomach pounder, a protein milkshake Tim drinks early in the film, and Beth's murder scene was modeled after a scene from Fred Walton's When a Stranger Calls. Franz wrote the scene upon hearing that Walton had been attached to direct, though Walton would eventually drop out of the production. Additionally, extended scenes of Kara walking on the college campus and en route to her home were intended to allude to scenes featuring Laurie Strode in the first film, while Danny dropping his pumpkin while walking home alludes to a scene in the first film in which a group of bullies forced Tommy to drop his pumpkin outside the elementary school. Now let's take a look at the casting. Donald Pleasence returned to play Dr. Sam Loomis in what would be his final film performance. Aww. According to Franz, Pleasence was fond of the script. Danielle Harris, who was 17 at the time, contacted producer Paul Freeman about reprising her role as Jamie Lloyd, and went so far as completing paperwork to become legally emancipated in order to shoot the film. She was officially cast in the role, but Dimension Films could not come to agreement over her salary. Harris alleges that Dimension offered her a scaled $1,000 to shoot the part over the course of a week, which is less than the amount of money she had paid for her emancipation. Franz and Freeman both wanted Harris for the part, but at that point had their hands tied. According to Harris, the head of the casting department refused to negotiate her salary, saying that she was a, quote, scale character who dies in the first 20 minutes. This ultimately led her to dropping out of the project. Quote, people automatically assume I wanted some crazy amount of money or something, Harris commented in 2014, also saying, quote, but it's not like I was demanding of anything, really. When you've been asked to do something and they insult you by saying, also, quote, you're a piece of, and a part of my language, shit, you died in the first act. I don't give a fuck that you were in the other 2 Halloween movies. Who cares? I was in shock. Actress J.C. Brandy was cast as Harris's replacement. Oh boy. The producers initially wanted Brian Andrews to reprise his role as Tommy Doyle. However, with Andrews not having an agent, they were unable to cast him. Aww. Paul Rudd was cast in the part of Tommy, which marked his first starring role before he appeared in Clueless. The leading female role, Kara, was given to Marianne Hagen. However, Hagen has since stated that Miramax executives Bob and Harvey Weinstein did not favor her for the part, and made aesthetic criticisms about her being, quote, too thin and her chin being too pointy. Asses. Franz, however, had wanted Hagen for the role because he felt she possessed a, quote, every girl quality of having lived a little and had a hard time, alike her screen presence to that of Jamie Lee Curtis. Interesting. For the role of Dr. Terrence Wynn, Mitchell Ryan was cast, based on his performance in Lethal Weapon. Franz originally urged the producers to cast Christopher Lee, having had the veteran actor in mind when writing the character. This is a reference on Carpenter's initial choice for the role of Dr. Loomis during the filming from Halloween from 1978, where he was offered that role, but declined due to low pay, only to regret in later years. Yeah, I thought it would be cool if they got Christopher Lee as Sam Loomis. That would have been awesome. Denise Rogers also auditioned for the part of Beth, but the studio passed on her, gave her the role to Mariah O'Brien, or Breen, I guess is how it's pronounced. Stunt performer George P. Wilbur, who portrayed Michael in the 4th installment, reprised his role as Michael Myers. However, once reshoots took place, Wilbur was replaced by A. Michael Lerner, as director Joe Chappelle found Wilbur to be too bulky. Rude. Now let's take a look at the actual filming of this thing. Fred Walton, director of When a Stranger Calls and April Fool's Day, was originally attached to direct the film but dropped out. Special effects artist John Carl Buechler created the mask for the film, which is heavily based on the mask featured in the poster for Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Buechler handcrafted the mask over George P. Wilbur's face. Filming began in late October 1994 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Within the first week of filming, however, the city experienced an early winter snowstorm, which complicated the production. As a result, several scenes which were supposed to take place on exterior locations had to be transferred to interiors. The original hospital scenes were shot at the abandoned Old Primary Children's Hospital in the Avenues section of Salt Lake City. Producer Paul Freeman and director Chappelle reportedly rewrote the ending on set, even from shot to shot as production deadlines loomed. Freeman also sent the crew home when crucial scenes needed to be shot, deleted scripted scenes indiscriminately, rewrote dialogue and action sequences, and assumed the responsibility of directing second unit shots and the supervision of post-production of the original cut. These complications resulted in Dimension Films' parent company and the film's co-production company, Miramax, taking over the film's production and ordering many of the reworked sequences to be reshot. Associated producer Malika Akkad explained the film's lack of a cohesive vision being the result of director Chappelle answering to the visions of the distributor Dimension Films, Moustapha Akkad's production company, Nightfall Productions, and writer Daniel Franz. Tensions between what Dimension, Nightfall, and Franz envisioned for the film resulted in a finished product that needed more forethought, according to Akkad. Yeah, now let's take a look at those reshoots, huh? But yeah, anyway. In early 1995, after filming and edited was completed, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers was given a test screening in New York City, which, as described by actress Marianne Hagen, quote, consisted primarily of 14-year-old boys. Huh. During the Q&A afterward, one of the audience members expressed great displeasure at the ending of the film, which entailed a Celtic ritual and the passing on of the Curse of Thorns to the Dr. Loomis character. As a result of the audience's disapproval toward the film's finale, the movie was rushed back into production, this time without Donald Pleasence, who died on February 2nd, 1995. Or should I say on February 2nd, 1995. Pleasence had been in ill health during the shooting of the film. Reshoots took place in Los Angeles, California in the summer of 1995. Michael Lerner had replaced George P. Wilbur in the role of Michael Myers, as the studio executives wanted him to appear less bulky. This resulted in a continuity error as the last third of the film features a slimmer Myers. However, Wilbur makes a cameo appearance as the doctor who was killed by Myers in the finale. Some of the additional footage incorporated into the finale of the film was shot at the Queen of Angels Hospital in Los Angeles. Now let's take a look at the post-production. In addition to the reshoots prompted by the poor test screening, the film also underwent significant editing and post-production, resulting in brisker pacing and a flashier, cinematic style that favored blood and guts, but according to Franz, ultimately resulted in a more confusing movie. According to writer Franz, the stylized flash cuts prominent in the final theatrical cut of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, were not originally intended, and he likened the style of the final product to a quote, MTV video rather than Halloween film. Composer Alan Howarth similarly called the final product a fixed job, with numerous elements of the production being in flux both during and after principal photography. In addition to Howarth's score being redone, the film's sound design was also significantly altered from Howarth's original minimalist design. And speaking of which, let's take a look at the musical score. The original music score is composed by longtime Halloween contributor Alan Howarth, his work in the series dating back to his collaboration with John Carpenter on Halloween 2. However, Howarth's score was redone by music editor Paul Rabjohns when the film went through reshoots. A soundtrack album released by Varese Sarabande and is an unusual combination of the music featured in the original cut of the film, as well as that of the final theatrical cut. According to Howarth, he helped rescore the revised cut of the film, incorporating the use of guitar and drums in addition to the original score, which had been more synthesizer and piano-based. Howarth's official score for the film was released on CD on October 24, 1995. The music of Alabama-based rock band Brother Cane was featured throughout the movie. The music came for their 1995 release Seeds on Virgin Records. The album's hit Signal and Fools Shine On can be heard with Kara, Tim, and Beth arrive at the school in their car. The song is also heard during the closing credits. 3 other Brother Kane songs, all from the Seeds album, are featured in the film: Hung on a Rope, 2020 Faith, and Horses and Needles. Disconnected by the group I Found God is also featured in the film. Now let's take a look at the alternative versions. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, is notorious among Halloween fans for having multiple versions. The producer's cut is best known. However, a director's cut also exists with footage cut by the MPAA. The theatrical version was the only version commercially available, with the director and producer's cuts existing as low-quality bootlegs, until the producer's cut was included in the official complete collection box set released by Scream Factory and Anchor Bay Entertainment in 2014. About time. Now, finally, let's take a look at that infamous producer's cut. The original cut of the film that screened for test audiences prior to the reshoots became known colloquially as the producer's cut, and bootleg copies of it surface among film collectors. This cut of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, features numerous differences, ranging from different scores and musical cues to substantial shifts in plot, particularly regarding the film's conclusion. In a retrospective interview, Franz noted that the finale in this cut of the film was sufficiently creepy and gothic, but conceded that it lacked intensity, which is largely what prompted Dementia Films to begin reshoots. The producer's cut of the film garnered a cult following. According to writer Franz, quote, "It's amazing the life that Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers has continued to have, because there is this alternate version that has been kind of in the vault all these years." In the finale of the producer's cut, Kara is to be used as a human sacrifice for Myers, and awakens at Smith's Grove Sanitarium on a concrete slab, surrounded by the cult's followers. She is ultimately saved by Tommy, who uses runes to stop Michael from pursuing them, and they escape with Jamie's newborn baby. It is implied by Kara in the film that the baby is a product of incest between Jamie and Michael. Oh gosh, that's so gross. Later, after telling others that he has got a little business to attend to, Loomis walks back into the sanitarium to find a seemingly defeated Michael lying on the floor on the main hallway. Upon removing the mask, Loomis finds Dr. Wynn, who was forced by Michael to switch outfits so he could escape. With his dying breath, Wynn grabs Loomis's hand and says, "It's your game now, Dr. Loomis." After Wynn dies, the thorn symbol appears on Loomis's wrist, realizing now that Loomis himself is now to act as the leader of the cult. He screams in terror and despair. The scream is heard as ambient noise in the final frame of the theatrical cut. Another substantial difference in the producer's cut is the death of Jamie Lloyd. In it, Jamie does not die at the beginning of the film, and instead survives a knife attack by Michael in the barn. She remains in a coma and is taken to the hospital, where Loomis and Wynn visit her. Midway through the film, a gothic montage occurs, which reveals in fragmented detail the conception of Jamie's child among the cult. After the sequence, an unseen person, later revealed to be Wynn, shoots the unconscious Jamie in the head with a silenced pistol. Oh no! Additionally, John's death scene in the producer's cut was shorter, and the theatrical cut, an additional shot completed during reshoots, was incorporated of his head graphically exploding from an electrical power surge. Ugh, nasty. Other various transitional shots throughout the producer's cut version were extracted or truncated in the theatrical cut. The producer's cut remained officially unreleased for nearly 20 years. It had its first public exhibition on October 27, 2013, at the New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles. Screenwriter Franz was present for a short Q&A, in which he stressed that there was still a major push to get this version a proper release. He also said that the studio allowing this version to be screened in public for the first time, and the overwhelming positive response, were both huge steps in the right direction. A few slick scenes from the producer's cut can be seen in the television version of the film. The scenes were reinserted to increase the running time of the film. Wowee. Who knew that this movie had so many things going on and stuff? I mean, especially with that infamous producer's cut. Yeah. Of course, hey, I would have loved to have seen that, but who knows? Maybe I'll get a chance to maybe buy that box set at some point, but who knows? So, when I say this is definitely one of the more interesting films in the franchise, and yeah. But unfortunately, well, Yeah, this movie didn't probably do so well, but what you gonna do about it? So overall, I give Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, 3 jack-o'-lanterns out of 5. Well, join me tomorrow as we take a look at Halloween H2O 20 years later. Oh, yes, that should be a really fun one to look at, huh? So, until tomorrow, peace out, everybody.